Yeah, so Cinema 16 is the on-campus film club at UNL. It's for the longest time been run by the film and new media major, which is now the emerging media arts major. We set up like fun little speaking events where people who are more knowledgeable about filmmaking than us will come and give a talk. And we also do a lot of like film festivals where students at UNL can submit entries and just have some fun with making movies with their friends. Yeah, so I am the treasurer. I'm in charge of the financial department of things and in general just helping out planning events and all that stuff, and also in charge of merch as well. So I came here as a freshman, and pretty much when you're a freshman in emerging media arts, you're kind of just inducted in Cinema 16. Cinema 16 does this cool thing too, where we match up people in the major with older mentors. Like, so when a freshman's coming in, they have someone who they can talk to and hang out with and get advice about stuff in the major with and all that stuff. I really like that it's a community. Like, people when we get together and have events and make stuff together, it's just kind of having fun with your friends, and yeah, there's just a lot of familiarity there, and we're also open for people to join outside of EMA as well. And I think it's just a really welcoming place for people who want to make some stuff and just have some fun. So that's a lot. As you can probably tell, I really like the community aspect a lot of just being with my friends and working together on something that we're all passionate about. In high school, I would want to make short little sketches and short films and stuff, and my friends would be down with it for a little bit, but if we were shooting for over an hour, everyone would get tired of it except me. So it's really fun to have people that we're all really excited about making this kind of stuff. And I'm also just really passionate about storytelling, and kind of the visual language of film are two things that just like really interest me and really inspire me when I watch a good movie or see something that either I made or my friend made that is just really well made and really inspiring. It's like the best feeling in the world. So yeah. So a short film generally is going to be usually longer than about a minute, but I guess there isn't really a super big time constraint except that it's not a special, which is usually about like 45 minutes or 22 minutes to 45 minutes, and it's not a feature film, which is usually in that 90-minute to above range. And so here at the Carson School, we end up making things that are usually anywhere between like 3 minutes and 20 minutes is kind of like that general range of like what we would call what we make here at the school and in Cinema 16. But it usually tells a full story, even though it's shorter than a feature. And it has a beginning, middle, and end, and it is made as a film, so it uses cinematic language to, tell the story with the camera and audio, and well, it doesn't have to have audio, but some would argue it's 50% of the film and things like that. So, yeah. There's generally, like most other like features and shows and all that stuff, there's three stages of production, kind of in general. There's pre-production, production, and post-production. So pre-production is when you write the script. It's when things like the shot list and the storyboard are made. It's when you cast your actors, you figure out your equipment, your gear, a lot of other small things that before you maybe learn about filmmaking you don't really know about, like a call sheet is like what helps everything be organized on the day of, you tell everyone, okay, you come to set at this time, you're doing this thing, that sort of stuff. So pre-production is all the planning, basically. And then production is the actual shoot. So you're on set, you are getting the shots, you're recording the audio, you have all the actors there, that sort of thing. And then post-production is the editing process. And if you're going to release it widely, it's also I guess marketing. But that's not really something that we do as much here, unless you're kind of doing something that for an advanced project or a capstone, which you do your junior or senior year that you're wanting to release like that. But that's really subjective. But I think having some sort of aspect that people can invest in or relate to, whether it's because it doesn't have to be this sort of emotionally gripping thing. It could be just something that's funny. It could be a concept that is maybe a bit more just kind of interesting, something that can grab the audience. And then I think, in my opinion, having a kind of a defined conflict or beginning, middle, and end that tells a full story. And if it leaves the audience hanging, it is in a good way, rather than just kind of making the audience think, wow, that should have been longer. I didn't get much out of that. But just kind of having an overall like satisfactory quality of kind of, it seems like it's short, but it's meant to be short. It doesn't feel like it could have been longer, or I don't know, that sort of thing. And I think just in general, with any project, if you can tell that the creators cared when they made it, like they obviously were passionate about what they were making, I think that's really important too. I think, like I said, I've seen shorts where it feels like it's just a thing happens on screen and then it ends, and you don't feel like there was a complete story told. I think that can be really unsatisfying for an audience, and I think that isn't really taking advantage of the medium. I think that, I'm trying to think of other things that like maybe annoy me, or maybe sometimes when a short film, it depends on how well it's done, but sometimes when a short film feels kind of substanceless, like it's just kind of, here's a lot of really pretty shots, and then that's the movie. That is a bit, unless it's really high on that artistic merit side of how good the cinematography is or whatever technical aspect it is, I think that can be kind of unsatisfying. I think also, like I said earlier, if it kind of, in a weird way, a short film could also overstay its welcome a little bit. Let's say you have something that's like 10 minutes long that could have been like a 2-minute sketch. It's, you're filling out a whole bunch of time with kind of a lot of fluff. I think that could be unnecessary. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, when it comes to short films specifically, I think knowing the length that suits your story and having a complete story is really important. A lot. There's a lot of technical challenges that could come into play, whether it's equipment malfunctioning, not knowing, like getting on set and then you realize that, oh, there's a thing we should have brought to set, or what's some other stuff. Sometimes it's hard to remember all of like the aspects of planning, even when it comes to like scheduling and stuff. So let's say you're shooting on a location and you maybe told the location owner, oh yeah, we'll be there for 3 hours. Something goes wrong, or you realize that a shot is more complex than you thought it was, and then you're realizing that they're having to kick you out in like 30 minutes and you've gotten only half of your shots that you need, stuff like that. And I think a lot of the things that can go wrong on a short film set or just a film set in general are things that like probably will go wrong your first time, your first 2 times, your first 3 times, and then you just keep learning as you keep making stuff. That's something that I was interested in filmmaking starting in like high school, and that's something that I needed to get told multiple times. It was like, hey, it's okay that you messed up, now you know. And even if you watch your short film and you're just like, oh man, that shot, that looks horrible, or like, oh dude, I would have recorded this differently, or oh man, I could have, it's terrible that we told the actor to come in at this time and they just sat around for 2 hours while we were waiting to get to their shot. That's all stuff you learn as you keep going. So it's one of those things where if a short film, if challenges come up while you're in production, that's okay. That's going to happen and you're going to learn from it. So yeah. Specific tips. I would say make sure that you do a lot of planning beforehand and just try to think of every possibility that could go wrong and try to plan for what you're going to do when that happens. It's super easy, and it's something that I do all the time where let's say I have a group of 3 other people that we're going to work on a short film, and we're in pre-production, and we kind of whip up some documents to figure some stuff out, and then we kind of 2 days before just like, it'll turn out fine. You kind of like, instead of really thinking hard about preparing and stuff, you're just kind of like, oh, we'll get there and we'll figure it out. It's sometimes you can and sometimes you do, but it's good to be as prepared as possible going into it. And then I think this is a very general tip, but just be flexible. Things are going to go wrong. Things are going to turn out differently than you originally expected, but just be ready to be there and have fun. And then also, when you're working with other crew members and actors, and just everyone there. When you're on set, it's a good to have a balance between like, all right, we're on task and we're doing the thing, but then also just try to have a positive atmosphere while you're there too. I've been on at least one set where it's just, you're just like, dang, no one here is having fun. And you don't want that. You want people that are there, especially if it's a student project, to be happy and wanting to be there, because if it's a student project, chances are people aren't getting paid, and so they're there for other reasons. And you want that to be, you want people to be as happy as they would be if they were getting paid, even though they're not getting paid. And just, you don't want people to be passionate about the project. So, yeah. I think the first thing that came to my mind is it's a really good way for someone like myself and other people in this major and other people in Cinema 16 who want to make features as a living, to get started and get your feet wet, and also to get a chance to play a bigger role in a filmmaking process than you would starting on a feature. So like someone who's like me, a sophomore in film school, can direct a short film. I would not be able to direct a feature film right now. Like, I just couldn't. It would not go well. It would be horrible. It would be the worst. So the idea of, being able to make something that's like 3 to 6 minutes that I can, that someone of this amount of experience can like really be heavily involved in and take creative responsibility for, I think that's super important, because that's like a good training for later. And also, it even if you don't view it as training for later, you can just, someone who's just a student, or not even a student, just anybody can make something that can be really creatively valuable like that. So. Filmmaking is fun, and I think that if you're a creative person who is maybe looking for a challenge in something that they create, let's say you're a writer, or you are an artist and you just are looking for something new to challenge you, trying something like let's make a 1-minute short film, that sort of thing I think is super cool, and it can be with any equipment also. That I think there's kind of, especially I fell into this for a long time where I was like, well, I can't make that because I don't have a nice camera, I don't have a nice microphone, I don't have nice lights. You can make anything with your phone, you know what I mean? Or, and even if you don't have a smartphone and you have a crappy flip phone that can somehow record video, it's something that I think is really valuable to try, and it's really valuable to try even if you don't have equipment.